Yisroel. It's going to be really nice. So what happened, so I came late. I came running over here to prepare. The most embarrassing thing. I'm sitting and I'm preparing the shiur, and suddenly someone came in to get something, and I'm sitting in there. Then I suddenly feel I have no yarmulke. I said, how in the world am I sitting and learning a sikha for 10 minutes without? I couldn't believe it. Then I'm saying, what happened? In my house, I was thinking that tomorrow night is like Boimer. I needed to daven earlier. But I came home. That's what happened. I came home rushing, and I had to daven mincha. So I grabbed a little Purim streimel. I didn't find my hat, so I grabbed a little Purim streimel that my daughter brought home from Eretz Yisrael for my grandson, and I used it for my mincha. It looks like a little Russian hat. So then I said to my wife, "Oh, this is perfect for Lag BaOmer. I can wear, I'll wear like a kapota, I wear a streimel and a bekesha. I'll wear the bekesha, but streimel you can't really wear Lag BaOmer. It's not. Yeah, it's Yom Tov. It's not a full Yom Tov. Yeah, regular." I said, "This is perfect. The streimel like this." And my wife started saying, "No way, you're not wearing that. You're going to look ridiculous." And I was teasing her. I said, "Of course, this is perfect for Lag BaOmer." And we were going on, and I was saying, "Yeah." She was saying, "No way. If you're wearing that, I'm not coming." Anyways, then I took the thing off, and I ran out to the car. And it looks like when I ran out, it flew out with my yarmulke. Now I found one of the nice Russian yarmulkes that are here for the Jews who need a kippah. So that's my little Goyla Geula story. There's always a lesson in everything that happens. Okay, I'm sorry for the narishkeit, and you're all serious shluchas, and you're all ready for a class, and I'm hacking you in Chinik. But that's my story, and that's my lesson. In any case, so I hope I understood it, because I was reading it without. I'm dreading the idea that I was sitting here without it. Came from my house all the way here, not noticing that I had the thing got stuck there. I hope we probably have to relearn it again. I can't let it learn without a yarmulke, but okay. I'm sorry that I'm doing tshuva on the phone. In any case, I'm here. I'm ready to go. So, what are we learning in the teichen of this talk? In Dvar Malchus, Pashas Acharei. We were learning in the last piece that the whole idea of Geula is to bring the Aleph into Gola. The Geula is not separate. It's not to a different world. You don't escape the Gashmias, the material exile world, and enter into a different existence. It's our very existence liberated. By the way, anybody that wants to hear a fantastic share, a fantastic talk that really, really, I think, drove home this point really well, that I enjoyed it tremendously, was Rabbi Yossi Jacobson spoke at the women's gathering. They just had another women gathering, and he spoke in Baltimore for the Geula gathering just this last week, and it was a phenomenal talk. I guess if you can find it, look it up. Maybe I'll post it onto the chat and you'll send it out. It's really worth listening to. It's very powerful. And it deals with this different applications to this idea of finding the Aleph in the Goyla. In any case, so the main point that Rebbe brought out was that a Jew has to realize that ultimately our greatest, the most important idea is that there's not two things in this world, which is only me and the Eibishter. There's also a world. And we need to work with the world. We need to elevate the world. And what's Mashiach? Mashiach is the elevated world. It was the very world of Gullus, the very world of darkness, the very world of all the concealment. That very world is Mashiach after we're done inserting the Aleph into that world. And that's the reason why the word Geula is made up of Geula, because the world is going to be the very world. As we're going to see later in the Sikha, that episode beautifully explains it, how you're not all your friends and all your contacts and all your business associates and all everything that was real, that was meaningful, all the good things are going to continue after Mashiach comes. It's just that you're then going to appreciate these relationships from a godly perspective, like we spoke last week. And the idea is that right now we have to start already using all these otherwise mundane interactions and activities, whether our association with people, Jews and non-Jews, which generally we might just see them as social life, unrelated to anything godly, we need to find the divine, the godly element of it, to use every association, every relationship, because that's what Geula is. Geula is the very world you're in right now with the divine shining, which obviously makes it totally different, delightful and true and real and good, but at the same time we have to realize it's the same world. And that's the idea of Istakel b'shloisha dvarim, three things. You have to always notice three things. The three things is that there is a world as well, not just you and the Eibishter. Okay. Based on this, the Rebbe starts in Sif Zayin, and he says, this is also emphasized very strongly in Sefira. This idea is emphasized in Sefira. Where do we see this emphasis? He says in four things it's emphasized. In Sefira in general, in the fourth week of Sefira. Now it's actually already the fifth week of Sefira, but this Sikha was taking place in the fourth week of Sefira. And so in Sefira in general, in the fourth week of Sefira, in the Parsha of the week, which is Acharei Kedoshim, and Parshas Emor, which was the week that they were starting in Mincha, and then also the date that the Sikha was said, the 13th day of Iyar, which is the Rebbe's brother's yahrzeit. So the Rebbe is going to find this significance in that day as well. So let's begin. What do we see in Sefirat HaOmer that the Jew, that our avoda is not just about us. Our avoda is an avoda that includes the world. So by Sefirat HaOmer, the Rebbe says we see it very, very clearly and very strongly. Because after we say the blessing for Sefirat HaOmer, we say especially Yehi Ratzon, or Rebbeinu Shalom. And in that Rebbeinu Shalom, a special tefillah, we speak about the purification that happens to us. That we as Jews become elevated, we become purified, sanctified with the supernal holiness. That's really, really intense. That we become purified and sanctified with supernal holiness. That's the greatest, the king and I. We and Hashem, elevated. But at the same time, we don't forget about the world. Right? You're sanctified in God's holiness, you don't forget about the world. Because what do you say right after that? Al Yedei Zen, through this, Yushpa Shefarav B'chol Ha'olamos. There should be a tremendous flow of energy in all the worlds, so you're not forgetting about the worlds. God's light should flow B'chol Ha'olamos in all the worlds. And then, in the end you say, after you say that it should make an influence and it should impact the worlds, what did we learn earlier? That through the avodah that a Jew has with his body, remember this is what we spoke about last week, dealing with the world, dealing with your body, dealing with the material world, even though temporarily it could impede and, in a sense, darken the brightness of the soul, but ultimately the neshama receives its ultimate elevation through this. Number one, the darkness of the world challenges the neshama to unearth its deepest kaiches. And number two, there's something about planet Earth itself, that the Eibishter, this ava, that God wants to have a dwelling place in the world, which primarily means the Jewish body, means the whole world at large, primarily the Jewish body. And that's where, as Chassidus explains, that's the choice of atzmos mamish, the choice of the very, very essence of God himself. And thereby, the neshama gains something the neshama doesn't have. The neshama doesn't have a relationship, at least not in any revealed state, with atzmos, with the Eibishter's very essence, but with lower levels of the divine. And through this, that it works with the body contributes to the neshama, the ultimate maila of etzem. So we find the same thing as we learned last week. We find the same thing over here, that as a result of shining the lights into all the worlds, what happens in the end? L'saken es nafsheisenu, we come back to a tikkun to our own nefesh, v'ruchasenu in our own ruach, in our own spirit, v'nishmeisenu in our own soul. Mekol sigib kam, from any kind of impurity, l'tareinu l'kachenu b'shas chayon, until we become sanctified with the greatest holiness. So here we see our connection, in that impacts the world, and then the world contributes back into the yid, into the neshama. And another element that we see that idea, he says this avodah, which is Sefirat HaOmer, which is all about Sefirat HaOmer, which is all about adding purification to our bodies and the world. The whole idea of Sefirat HaOmer is tikkun hamidos. We're working on on the midos of the nefesh habahamis, on the animal soul. That's why it doesn't say it over here, but that's why it's related to barley. The Omer was a measure of barley, because barley is the food of an animal. So we know the 7 weeks of Sefirat HaOmer, we're dealing with the animalistic element in man. And we're doing a tikkun in. And what's the tikkun? The tikkun is to bring the aleph to make your ordinary, mundane, regular, unholy self, to make that too connected to Kedoshim, to refine it. That means bringing the aleph into a dark place, into Goyla. What do we say immediately after we say the bracha on Sefirat HaOmer? It means once we accomplish that, what do we say? We right away have the geula. Why? We say right away, Harachman Yachsalanu Avodas Beis Hamikdash. We're ready. We get. What's the third? What's the geula? The geula is the revelation of the third Beis Hamikdash. So it comes hand in hand. It comes together. It comes immediately. Now that's in general. So Sefirat HaOmer, you see, there is a tremendous emphasis on bringing the aleph into Golus, the teichen of geula. It's working with the world, with our own midos. Yesh b'shefa rav b'chol ha'olamos, the worlds. Particularly amongst the weeks of Sefira, last week was the week of Netzach. So Netzach means to be victorious. Victorious over what? To persevere over what? Persevere over the world. So the whole week of Netzach is a very strong week that's emphasizing the Jew conquering the world, the Aleph conquering the Gola and making it Geula. That's what the week of Netzach is. And the Rebbe says primarily the last day of Netzach, which is Malchus Shebenetzach. Malchus Shebenetzach represents the Nitzachon, the victory of Melech HaMashiach, of Mashiach's kingdom over the entire world to make the entire world godly. And that's the whole teichen of what we're learning over here. Bringing the aleph into the and this is that's the trick. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about, if you want to know what's the avoda with Mashiach in your life, in every aspect of your daily activities as you have it now. Don't let the world dictate the reality, your mood, your state of mind in the situation. You dictate. Recognize constantly, it's always the consciousness. We're living already in the days of Mashiach. How can I be in this constricting situation in Mashiach's state? There must be something very divine and godly happening right now over here. And what's that godly? What's the godly teichen? And then ultimately it's the ultimate stress releaser. It's the ultimate anxiety eliminator. Because you can't have anxiety in Mashiach's world. You can't have stress in Mashiach's world. There's nothing that can stress you, nothing that can, no matter what happens. If you find the aleph, Gam ki elech b'geit salmaves la'irira ki atimadi. I find God in everything. We had a story over here. I was embarrassed. I'm talking about all my embarrassments today, but okay, I guess. Sunday night, I spoke to you that Rabbi Jacobson spoke for a Geula gathering. We had our gathering over here at Maayon Yisroel Sunday night, and we were going to show Rabbi Jacobson's speech. For that, I have a projector, but I'm not a tech guy, and my office people were in here. It was Sunday night. I came in here, and I tried fiddling and figuring out how I'm going to connect the whatever it is to the projector. And I've been working for over an hour, and I was going crazy. It wasn't working. And the room was full of ladies, and they're all waiting. No. And I'm sitting there pulling plugs. This and everybody's giving me eitzes, and I'm really stressing out. And the ladies were saying, and one of the ladies said, well, this is Geula. And if it's Geula, it means that right now that we're waiting, there's something godly. And the aleph in the Goy was so beautiful, so therapeutic. I felt a little ashamed that I was not acting, meaning I felt the tension and the nervousness, that I can see it all over me, that I missed it. What do you mean? Especially if it's a Geula gathering, how can I lose it and get, okay, we'll figure it out. And actually they made the best out of it, because while they were waiting, in the end I didn't even get it to play. In the end I just had it, an audio from my phone playing, just they can hear they didn't watch it. But that was good. the main thing is what during the time that all the women were waiting, they came up with such phenomenal ideas. Everybody was talking and sharing Geula, what Geula means to them. It ended up being very beneficial and being much better event than had they not have it. So that's the idea. It's all about finding the Eibishter in the here and in the now, so you're happy, go lucky. Doesn't mean you're not constantly on the run and on the move and getting things done, bezrizus, but never stressed and never anxiety. That's the key. No anxiety and stress. And that's the avodah of Sefirat HaOmer, to illuminate the dark side, the side in us that wants to get stressed, the side in us that wants to tense up. No tension. Okay. No worry and no tension. This will also bring us, the Rebbe says, Parshas Acharei Mois. Now this I did mention already last week. I'm just going to review the Nekudim and bring out stronger. Parshas Acharei Mois deals with the Kohen Gadol. The Rebbe's, this piece is like so phenomenal. Where you see the same idea. Acharei Mois, you would think, talking about if any was a moment between, as I mentioned earlier, the king and I'm going into the Holy of Holies. Kohen Gadol, Yom Kippur. Holy. Transcendence. But remember, the rule is istakel b'shloisha dvarim. You have to look at three things. You can't look at two things. Two things never work. It's never just me and Hashem. There always has to be a world. Where do we see the world in Yom Kippur? You see the world in Yom Kippur, first of all, that holiness that the Kohen Gadol is going into is a physical room. The gashmiistic room. So the greatest holiness is connected to space, to physical space. It's not like the Kohen Gadol closed his eye and made aliyas haneshama and entered his soul, his consciousness into a higher realm. No, he walked into it. Now, of course, his consciousness was tied up with the highest worlds, but where did he do it? By taking a physical walk through a building, reaching a certain side in that building, a certain space, and entering into that space. Where over there, space and spacelessness meet together, fine, but it's still a physical space. And when the Kohen Gadol went into that space, he went in with his physical body. So it wasn't an out-of-body experience. It was with his body to the whole. And he touches the essence of holiness. And that's what it is. As holy as it is, the holiest moment, it takes place on physical earth. And more than that, this holiness can only take place in physical earth, because in the spiritual realms, there's no Kohen Gadol going into the Holy of Holies. And if he does, it's not as holy as the Holy of Holies down here, because here is where it's at. It's amazing. And in the sense you're like, Acharei Mois is coming to tell us not to do like Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu forgot the shloisha dvarim. They were into the two things. They allowed their souls to abandon the world, the body and everything, and just cleave to God. So they forgot about shloisha dvarim. They were in a state of shnei dvarim. No good. That's exiting. That's not lifting golos, goyla. It's exiting goyla. And that's not what Geula is. Geula doesn't come by exiting. Geula comes by illuminating. That's what it's all about. Geula doesn't come by running away. Never flight. It's always about, hey, this is my situation. How will we make this situation Geula dig and godly dig? Think about how do you do that in a van full of kids after a trip and everybody's acting up and the kids are fighting and screaming and you are going berserk. You're really ready to tear the top of the fan off because you're going Mashiach already. At the end of carpool, there was extra traffic, they're fighting. No, I think I'm depicting a situation that everybody is probably laughing at. Now, here is where you take 3 deep breaths and you say, Geula, what's the Geula moment with me and my children in the car right now? I let you figure it out. I'm not going to figure it out for you, but I'm just giving you the idea. It's never escaping. It's never running away. It's finding the godly and But here's the thing. As long as we weren't standing at the threshold of Geula, we couldn't do it. Now that we're at the threshold of Geula, and the beginning of Geula, we can actually, in a minute, change that whole perspective and be in Geula and actually, sing in the rain. Take a dark, difficult situation and turn it into fun, happiness, excitement, energetic, incredible time together. It's all about a switch of mind, switch of attitude. Now, what happens if you're the only one doing it, but everybody in the car is not cooperating? They're not into bringing the aleph into the goyla. Well, that's where your creativity has to come in. I guess if you teach your children enough about it, then you can just snap them out because they know already what the aleph in the goyla means. So you're not the only one who's into this. In any case, as it was, the Rebbe says in the Kohen Gadol, the same is also true in every Kohen. In Parshas Emor, it says that the Kohanim have to watch themselves from Tumah, and they're separated to be a holy people. But the very idea that it's telling them that they have to not come into contact with a dead body, and they have to be careful not to defile themselves, is emphasizing so much that notwithstanding the holiness of a Kohen, which a Kohen is so holy, we can't imagine how holy a Jew is, and how much holier is a Levi, and how much holier is a Kohen. It's unbelievable, a Kohen. And yet, where does a Kohen practice his kohunishkeit? In a world where you have to tell him not to become defiled. That's only in a world where there are chas v'shalom dead corpses, which is this world. So the idea of a Kohen, again, you see Kedusha involves the world, includes the world, uplifts the world, doesn't ignore the world. Now, in addition to that, and this is what I mentioned last week, the Kohen also has to wear bigdei kahuna, the Rebbe says. Bigdei kahuna. And the point of bigdei kahuna is to make the Kohen look beautiful. Not spiritually, because spiritually the Kohen could be beautiful without these splendored clothing. They were physically beautiful. The Kohen had to look very handsome working in the Beis HaMikdash. And you'll say handsome, physical beauty? That's Greek. That's not Jewish. It's not Jewish when it's only that. But when it is the godly content that is expressing itself in everything and includes even the physical body, then it's Greek. That's holiness. That's the ultimate state. That the holiness of the Kohanim had to express itself, and their greatness and their specialty had to express itself in beautiful, splendored clothing. And that's also the reason why I mentioned last week, we need to make sure that our homes are beautiful, our lives are beautiful, clean, we're dressing well, we're put together, everything in our lives it's because this is the Eibishter's dwelling place. A Jew should be splendid. The Rebbe says also, another reason we say the Kohen Gadol needed to be a wealthy man. The Kohen Gadol needed to be a wealthy man. And you'd wonder, why does the Kohen Gadol have to be wealthy? An Ashir, a wealthy man. Yeah, Kohen Gadol has to be wealthy. Why? Because everything, if he's special, that specialness has to reveal itself in every level of existence, including his physical realm. He's rich spiritually, he has to come out and being rich physically. I'll give you a little example of this. This week in Shul, just a nice idea. In Shul, usually on Shabbos, I think most women probably on Shul, mainly on Shabbos. So you're used to it that when they take out the Sefer Torah, in most shuls, or a lot, you have a crown for the Torah. You put the crown on. In most shuls, you only put the crown on Shabbos, on Yom Tov. But if you're taking it out on Mondays and Thursdays, people don't put on the crown. It's just, taking the Sefer Torah in and out. We have someone in the shul that in Levi Yitzchak, when I daven Shachris, that he likes to squeeze the juice out of every situation. He sings every song that's there. Sometimes he goes on everybody's nerves. I'm not going to say that he doesn't. But one of the things that he likes doing is when he took out the Sefer Torah, is he had to put the crowns on. So I was enjoying it, that he's like making such a scene out of everything, which is great. But I mentioned to someone that, I even mentioned it to him, I said, you see, when you take out a Torah plane, the Torah is coming from Chachma. That's where the Torah comes from. Torah emanates from the Eibishter's Chachma. But when you take out the Torah with the crown, then it's really revealing how the Torah is sourced is in Keser. Because we know that when Chassidus says, when Torah Machachma Nafkis, means it only emerges from Chachma. We experience it from Chachma. But really its essence is in the crown, in the Ein Sof. So I said, take a look. When you're taking out the Sefer Torah with the crown, you're revealing Keser. And I mentioned to someone as he's standing there, it's not a joke. the whole idea of Mashiach is that the crown of the Eibishter is expressing itself in that silver crown. See, this is the idea we have to get. Everything in your life, everything in Mashiach means that the entire emes of Elokus, the entire depth and beauty and godly of Elokus, expresses itself in all the physical things in this world. Why are we going to stay in the physical world? If the spiritual worlds are so much richer and powerful, why would we stay here? The answer is, the idea is that everything of the spiritual finds expression in the physical. So yes, the color of your socks is significant. It's whether you're wearing chesed or gevura or a blend of it. That's what it is, and that's what it truly is. And that's what means living Mashiach. Living Mashiach is that everything you see has divine meaning. I mentioned it last week when I spoke about Levi Yitzchak. I remember there was one Shabbos was Parshas Vayigash. Give an example. Last year was Parshas Vayigash, and I had some guests, and these guests brought wine to my table. It was very nice Shabbos, Friday night. They brought two nice bottles of wine. I was very excited because one bottle came from, I read the bottle, one came from the Judean hills, and the other bottle was from Shiloh. One was from Shiloh, one was from the Judean hills. And I said, I can't believe it. Take a look. This week's parsha is what? Vayigash Elav Yehuda, that Yehuda and Yosef meet. And Chassidus has all the explanations of how Yehuda, energy of Yehuda, and energy. And take a look. On the table, we have the wines from Yehuda and the wines from Yosef. Yosef is Shiloh. Shiloh is the property of Yosef. So is that like being cute? You're not being cute. That's real. That's what it is. In this bottle of wine is Yehuda with all the teichen of Yehuda. That's what it means that this world is a godly world. There's nothing in this world that's just meaningless. The little tchotchkelech that you have decorating your kitchen have spiritual and godly significance. Figure it out. And once you start living in the Kabbalistic world, you can actually buy your china and your gadgets and your little souvenirs according to Kabbalah. But that's the emes. And it's true about how you're dressing, it's true about everything. Everything, you're living in a world of divinity. And it's absolutely godly. It's only, that's when you have the aleph of Geula in Geula. And we have to start practicing this, seeing it in every single thing that happens in our life, in every encounter, in every person. Obviously, the stage isn't this. If you learn a lot of Likutei Levi Yitzchak and Kabbalah, then you can mamish start defining every little event as godly. But otherwise, you find the general godly content, even if you don't have the specific element of it. But this is the idea. This is what the Rebbe is talking about. Goyle and Geula. So this reveals it in Parshas Acharei Mois and in Parshas Emor. Same idea. From the Kohanim, that the highest holiness is included in it. Now that and he adds something really spectacular. He says, this idea that as we revealed it by Kohanim, this is in Siftas, as we revealed it by Kohanim, doesn't apply only to Kohanim. It applies to every Jew, because every Jew is Mamleches Kohanim. So we have to say that every Jew is shayches to the highest levels of holiness, and yet that holiness does not negate their physical, earthy body with being a regular, normal person, down-to-earth person, engaged in your family, and having birthday parties, and buying presents, and running daily chores and events, and being happy and full of life, and being social, not wasting time, but being social, and having a world, and everything is full of the divine. And that's the Kohen. So where do you see that in Kohen? That every year there's a Kohen, the Rebbe says. So every year there's shaykh to the highest holiness. Ad kedei kach, the Rebbe says, that a yid is shaykh to the greatest holiness. Oh, I'm sorry. I told you I rushed before when I prepared, so I'm not so on top of my game today. So I forgot one very important point. Going back to the Kohen, when does the Kohen Gadol go into the Holy of Holies? Once a year. Once a year, he rises to the highest level of holiness. And yet we're saying that even when he goes there, he doesn't leave his body, he goes with his body. But here there's an added thing. The Medrash says, on the pasuk Bezois Yavai Aaron, according to the Medrash, the idea that Aaron goes into the Holy of Holies is not only on Yom Kippur, but that every single time when Aaron wanted to go to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, if he would do the order that is described in Acharei, he does the certain karbanos that Hashem tells him to do, then he can go in any given Tuesday, Wednesday, any day of the week, 365 days of the year. Now, halacha, this medrash is not accepted. Halacha was that it's only on Yom Kippur that the Kohen Gadol can do that. But the Rebbe says that it's possible that the medrash's explanation on this pasuk is the way it's going to be after Mashiach comes. In other words, the halachic limitation that a Kohen can only go in on Yom Kippur, that is only Bizman Hazeh. But in the days of Mashiach, when the concealments of Golus are going to disappear, a Kohen is going to be on the level, the Kohen Gadol, that he's going to be able to go into the Holy of Holies, not only on Yom Kippur, but literally every single day of the year. The Kohen Gadol is going to be able to go to the Holy of Holies every day. Because we're going to, so that means that this is going to be the status of the Kohen Gadol all the time. Kodesh HaKadoshim, and yet he's a human being, he's physically wealthy, wears beautiful clothing, right? So now the Rebbe says the same is with every Jew. That in a sense we can say that every Jew's true place is in the Holy of Holies. That means where do you belong in the Holy of Holies? Every Yid. You just find yourself while you're in a body. Now, where do we see that? So the Rebbe finds a story in the prophets, in the Nevi'im, where it says that. There was a woman, and her name was Yehosheva, and she took Yoash. Yoash was from the royal family, probably from Malchus Yehuda, I would imagine. Not familiar with the story, to look it up. And he was a little baby, and at that time, I think it was they killed out the whole royal family was killed by, I think, Isabel. I'm not sure. And in order to protect this baby, she hid him in the pasuk. It says Cheder Hamitos, in the bedroom. What that really means, the place of divine intimacy, where God is intimate with the Jewish people, which is in the Holy of Holies. So she hid this baby, but the baby couldn't survive. He's a baby. The baby needs a nurse. The nurse and the baby were not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim downstairs, because then they would get caught, on the attic of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which has the same holiness as the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Because if you learn about Hilchos Beis HaMikdash, you see that the Beis HaMikdash had 2 stories. No one went upstairs, but there was, and that upper realm is as holy as the Holy of Holies. So she hid him over there with his nurse. And over there, as a baby, what did he do? He survived. He ate, he drank, he lived normal life. We're in the Kodesh HaKadosh. What does that indicate? Even though it was an emergency, what does that indicate? That the true place of every single Jew is in the Kodesh HaKadosh. That's where a Jew belongs. That's how holy we are. The Rebbe proves that from the pasuk Kedoshim Tiyu, also last week's parsha, or 2 weeks ago parsha. You should be holy. How holy should you be? Kodesh Ani, the same level of holiness of God. Where does Hashem live? In the Kodesh HaKadosh. Where does a Jew belong? In the Kodesh HaKadosh. And what are you doing in the Kodesh HaKadosh? Eating and sleeping. Because a Jew's, the ultimate expression of God, could be in your body. It's meant to be in your body. It's so hard for us to really get this, but this is the way it is, in our physical bodies. Then the Rebbe goes ahead and explains this with the name of his brother, Yisroel Aryeh. I'm going to skip that part for now. And I'm going to go to Sif Yud Aleph. We're going to do it very quickly. I think it's just very, 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 very important. So based on all the above things, the Rebbe says we learn out something, avoid of the Bnei Yisrael and bringing the Geula. Now I'm just actually reading the words. And how a Yid should prepare to the Geula. When we're standing now, mamish, at the end of the Golus, Goyla, and we're standing already in the Geula. V'hine hine nemtzaim begeula. And ot, we're within the state of Geula. The first thing, there is an answer to these people who wonder. and they're getting all scared from this, that we are lately, the Rebbe says, tummeling, we're sturiming, we're making a commotion that every single Yid needs to do everything that the Geula should come, take her from Yad Mamish. And the Rebbe says, since these people are very open-minded people, they don't like to keep things to themselves, they actually convey their fears and their doubts. And they, as I told you last week, 2 weeks ago, that when the people, the Rebbe said, in response to people who felt that when the Rebbe said that we should start talking about Mashiach, it's going to hurt their Chabad houses. It's going to hurt the communities. So the Rebbe says, because these people are open with me and they tell me their fears, and they're saying, Rebbe, you should stop talking so much about Mashiach. So the Rebbe says there's an answer to these people. Why? When Mashiach will come, they're saying to me, well, no, what are they saying? They're saying when Mashiach will come, what's going to be with all the pa'ulas, with all their actions and all their inyanim that they affected during the many, many years of Golus? Their businesses, their rechush, which is their possessions, their estate, and everything that they've collected, their friends, their contacts, business associates, Jews or non-Jews, especially the Rebbe says communal people, communal activists. They have a lot of friends and high offices in Washington and here and there. They're ganze knackers. And suddenly, Mashiach, what kind of Mashiach over here? We built up so well our Chabad houses. We have a Balabatim. We're connected to billionaires. Everybody's got his big shots. So the answer to that, the Rebbe says, is you have nothing to be afraid. Don't be scared. Because since the Geula it means a continuation of the minig of the world. Everything good, the Rebbe says, that we affected in Golus, Adarabba, it's all, Geula includes all these things. All these things are elevated to a matzav of Geula, to their true shleimus. Through this, that we're Megala, the Aleph, Aluf Shalolim, which is the kavanah and the tachlis of all these things. Because all of these things reveal the kavod of the Eibishter. And therefore the Rebbe says, B'meila ein ma'al lidoik, we have nothing to worry about these pa'ulas, about these actions, and even mundane aspects, which we worked during the time of exile. And Adarabba, the Rebbe says, from here there is a hira, that how do you pearl Mashiach? By discovering Hashem more and more in your business interactions. You have to find, the Rebbe says, a businessman has to find as many excuses, it's not really an excuse, it's many opportunities, let's put it, to be able to reveal in his business things something. In other words, to get your guy to put on tefillin, to do a mitzvah, to get him to get tzedakah, everything should have mitzvah content. A talk, you should be able to give over a business meeting, give over something of meaningful, whether it's to a Jew or to a non-Jew. And on the other hand, the Rebbe says, it also comes to teach us the other type, on the other spectrum. There are people who think that when the Rebbe said you have to bring Mashiach, that means you cut the whole world out and you become crazy. The Rebbe says it doesn't work that way. It's 100% not that. If by coming crazy, you're running out of the world. That's not the world. You have to deal with the world. Adarabba, the Rebbe says, the Geula is dependent in Maseinu v'Avodeseinu b'zman hagolus. And therefore we have to look at three things. The way to bring the Geula is dealing with the world, to make the Eibishter dira b'tachtainim, and to prepare the world for the Geula. In a way that you're a master over it. You're a balabas over it. But you don't ignore the world. That's the Nakud over here. Okay. He's going to conclude, which we're going to leave for next year, how we're seeing it in today's days, in the latter generations, how the nations are so much more engaged and involved in helping us in matters of Yiddishkeit. So a Jew is working with the world. You're seeing the world is responding. And that, Be'ezus Hashem, we're going to leave just for the tiny ending of next week. Everyone should have a very happy Lag BaOmer. And Be'ezus Hashem, the Lag BaOmer should bring us already the ultimate Nitzachon of Kedusha, of holiness, of complete victory. Celebrate with Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and all the other tzaddikim, with Mashiach Tzidkenu in the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. May it be now, now, and now.